Hey Scrappers, it's Tom from the iScrap app, and today is Wednesday, October 14th, 2020, and we welcome you to another exciting, invigorating, and challenging weekly report on the scrap metal prices. But if you had the iScrap app on your iPhone or your Droid, you would have already known that we had our weekly report going on because we have our push notifications going out. So if you're looking for information on copper prices, brass prices, steel prices, general metal information, you can always download the iScrap app for free today. This way you can have push notifications sent to you and give you a little idea when we're doing our reports, different information that's out there, so you can learn more about what's going on in the metal markets. Now here we are, Wednesday the 14th. If you are looking for additional information on top of those push notifications, you can always become a Patreon subscriber. By becoming a Patreon subscriber, you'll be able to get extra tips, extra advice, and updated pricing very quickly when markets move. For example, last week we saw the market drop 16 cents a pound for copper in one day. Our Patreon supporters got 2 notifications that day letting them know about when the market was down 9 cents and then again at 16 cents, which gave them material that they were able to digest and know where the markets are going. The next day when the market jumped up 9 cents, only having after those 2 days a 7-cent loss, those Patreon supporters got that information quickly as well, which some of the app notifications don't always go to. Become a Patreon supporter today. Now, over the last week, we've been watching these metal markets, and we haven't seen too much of a crazy change, but we are going to talk about multiple points today. If you have any questions, every Wednesday afternoon at 1 p.m. Eastern, we like to do our live report. So if you have them, ask them. If you don't, listen up. Maybe you'll learn something, maybe you won't. Comment below, and we'll be able to go from there. Copper has increased slightly since we left off last Wednesday, as I mentioned a few seconds ago, with that big 16-cent drop on Thursday, 9-cent increase on Friday. Monday, Tuesday, we kind of saw a little bit of a smaller set of increases, but we have prices that are only about 7 or 8 cents below the highest prices that we've seen in 2020, which is a very good sign. Now, with the presidential election less than 3 weeks away, we're going to hear lots and lots of reports on how this candidate's going to affect the market here, how that candidate is going to affect the market in any other way. And we're going to try to cut through a lot of that red tape after the election to give you a better idea on where the markets could be going once the winner is announced. It'll give us the ability to know kind of where that candidate's stance is, and that will be able to project a little bit of an idea on where the markets could be moving 3 to 4 months post-election, or even going into the first half of 2021 when the either new or incumbent continues in office or starts in office, how some of the policy changes will be affected and will really have such a large impact moving forward. Now, with those copper prices increasing back to where they were, we have seen some of the reported prices across the United States and Canada increasing as well. Now, from a scrapyard's point of view, which a lot of people have asked us before, why don't the scrapyards have 9-cent increases day to day? Well, it's very simple. Look at what we saw last week, a massive seesaw effect of a 16-cent drop followed by a 9-cent increase. Now, those are things that scare scrapyards, and they are very worried when there's large swings like that, because needless to say, scrapyards don't have margins that many people think that they do. We've talked to people that think that scrapyards make 50, 60, 70 cents, $1 a pound, and many of them do not make anything close to that on non-ferrous, brass, or any of those things. So those prices that you see, those big 16-cent decreases, that could erase all of the profit that a scrapyard has after paying employees, trucking, and of course, many scrapyards wait 15 to 45 days to get paid for the material that they send out. No, we're not looking for any type of pity or sorrow for scrapyards waiting that long, but we do share information because they have to build the waiting into their budget when they price out and buy materials as well. Example, if I sold $100 worth of scrap as a scrapyard owner at Rockaway Recycling today, I might have accounts payable of net 30, which is about 6 weeks.
Now those 6 weeks, I can't use that $100 of material that I shipped out, which means I need to find more money from somewhere else, and that money that's out on the street is not creating interest, is not making extra money because it's already invested in a product. So those are things that scrapyards have to build in, and those are little tips and bits that people don't really think about when you're talking about the metal markets and different scrapyard prices and different margins. Now on the copper side of thing, with those increased prices, we've saw yellow brass price $1, $1.05, $1.22, $1.37 per pound for yellow brass. Some very strong prices were pushed out there, and we're happy to see those really pushed out into the market. Staying on the brass topic, bronze, its big brother, worth more money, was hovering between $1.40 and $1.71 per pound for red brass prices. So those prices are also very, very strong, and we're happy to see those prices moving in a positive direction. Looks like we have a question. Go.
Dion would like to know.
Okay, Dion.
If he should save or turn in his bear bright.
Save or turn in your bear bright? That's an awesome question. Thank you for asking. Sell it. My opinion, that's all it is. I'm not giving you advice. I'm giving you my opinion, is sell your bear bright. The highest price that we paid for Bear Bright at Rockaway Recycling this year was around $272, $275, right in that range. Right now our price is at $265, which is right in line with where the higher prices are in 2020. We had prices for copper 7 to 8 cents higher than they're trading at today, maybe 9 cents, which kind of fits into that margin. If you've been saving for a long time, if you are a little worried about how the election is going to turn out because you don't know who's going to win, you don't know how the markets are going to move after, we've suggested people unloading material. But some people like gambling, some people like betting on the future, and they would rather hold on to things for longer. So not knowing what position you're in my shoes, I would sell the material pretty much right now as the markets are very strong. And as they've stabilized, as you've learned from watching this video and others over the last few days, you might even be able to call your scrapyard and say, hey, I have 500 pounds of Bear Bright. Would you be able to give me 5 cents overboard? I'd really appreciate it. I can be there today. That's a very powerful sentence. I can be there today. That's a call to action that gives the scrapyard the ability to know that if you're bringing 500 pounds in today, they can sell 500 pounds tomorrow or whatever it is with the rest of their material. And it gives you a little bit of an extra leverage where some scrapyards will say yes, some scrapyards will say no. But by using the iScrap app, you'll be able to learn more about other scrapyards' pricing and see what's going on in the markets overall. Another question?
Yes. Rich is sitting on about 4,000 aluminum rims.
Ooh, Rich, that's a lot of aluminum rims.
He wants to know your thoughts on that.
Sure. So my thoughts are the aluminum market is really tanked over the last couple of years. While we've seen a minor increase, there's a couple of tips and advice that I would give you for your aluminum rims. Number one, if you're getting ready to sell those, I tell you to take all the wheel weights off and all of the all of the rubber nipples off. This way you can have a clean wheel weight. If there's a little cap in that insertion, pull that piece of plastic out, and you should sort your rims into 3 different categories, assuming of course that you clean them. Number 1, large truck rims. Number 2, chrome plated rims. And number 3, regular alloyed rims. From that point, with 4,000 rims, if you have access to a forklift on site, you might want to get some pallets, shrink wrap those wheels about 8 high, 4 or 5 rows, kind of like if you think about a die, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 on a pallet. So you take the 5 and you shrink wrap them together. If you have a forklift, you can move them easier, and that will give you a little more ability to make extra money with those rims. And of course, the team at Rockaway Recycling would be interested in buying them from you. So if you want to message us privately, we'd love to give you some prices and give you a little more information. Even if you don't sell them to us, we'd love to be able to work with you to help you make more money, of course, with your scrap. Now let's talk about aluminum while we're on the subject. Yes, we did see a couple of increased prices for aluminum over the last week and a half, and we've had a lot of questions about the aluminum market that we'd like to address today. Now, while there are aluminum shortages, as people have seen articles posted across the United States over the last week, there is a couple of things that you need to put in there, an asterisk, to give you a better idea on those shortages and why some of the aluminum prices are not increasing as quickly as you would think. Now, there are still tariffs placed on aluminum coming into the United States from 80 to 90% of the world, including Europe. Recently, we saw a tariff being levied on $1.8 billion of aluminum imports from Europe, various countries inside of that, as well as a few other countries in the Middle East like Turkey bringing aluminum in. Now, with these tariffs continuing to be in place, while the government is looking out for America first, trying to keep that aluminum inside of the country and not getting pushed out, those tariffs have definitely affected the aluminum market in a negative way when you look at the scrap side of things. But if you want to look at the coin having two sides instead of just being a one-sided coin, by keeping those prices of aluminum down, it's helped keep some of the car costs down. Manufacturing that's being done inside of the country. Those things, by having the prices down, have saved consumers money, because instead of, let's say Ford is making, their F-150 with their all aluminum chassis, right? And if the aluminum prices are double what they are today, well, that means that the material that Ford is going to be using in that aluminum chassis is going to be double the price. So when they go to sell it, instead of a $30,000 price tag, it could have a $30,500 or a $31,000 price tag, thus pushing those increased commodity prices to the consumer. And those are things that you wouldn't want. So while a lot of people want to complain about aluminum prices being low, don't always look just at the scrap. Look at what you might be buying as well, and that's going to affect some of the prices. And that's just a different way to think about it, which gives you a little more clarity when looking at the overall markets. Now, aluminum has continued to be relatively flat. We don't expect that to change for the rest of 2020, but we have seen aluminum copper radiators, also known as ACRs. We've seen those prices uptick over the last couple of weeks, with copper prices going up. We've seen prices reported for clean ones at 91 cents, 97 cents, 102. Highest price we saw was $1.07 per pound. Now, copper wire such as THHN, insulated wire, larger grades of cable, 500, 750 MCMs, those prices have increased as well, with the copper prices jumping. So you might want to consult with your local scrapyard to learn how they buy their material, whether it's based on copper recovery percentages, they have different categories. It's nice to know that going into things. Here at Rockaway Recycling, we have 15 to 20 categories on different wire that we buy, both priced and quoted online and in person for items that come in not as frequently. Now, on the catalytic converter side of things, if you get our push notifications, you'll see that we've been buying catalytic converters through the team at rrcats.com, who quote via serial or photo grading. By using those photos or those serial numbers off the cats, we're able to give you a very reliable and consistent price, which the team generally will hold for 7 business days, giving you the ability to use one of the many free shipping labels to send your cats in. Now, catalytic converters are very difficult to judge and to figure out their value, especially when you have so much going into it. With 3 precious metals, platinum, palladium, and rhodium, all trading in different ranges and affecting the catalytic converters in different ways, it's hard to look at a cat and say, this cat looks like it has 50% palladium, 25% rhodium, and 25% platinum. Without doing massive amounts of refining on your own, it's going to be impossible to know that. So by finding a valued buyer, such as the team at rrcats.com, they will give you the ability to get consistent quotes, sell your cats without a fear of getting paid, as they pay via check or PayPal, and just give you a little more security when you send your cats into the mail, that you can use a really nationally known shipping company to get them to us, and you'll be able to use a system that gives you updates when your cats are received and when your payments are made automatically. These are all things the team at rrcats.com has tried to produce more transparency in the market, just like iScrap has done to the scrap market over the last 10 years. I remember back in 2007 and 2008 when I started in scrap and started posting prices online for Rockaway Recycling. We had massive amounts of pushback, and at the first large trade show that I went to, sharing the iScrap app with the Scrapyard world, many people gave negative comments saying, why would you want to post prices online? You're making us lose our edge, and we don't want to give customers more information than they need. Fortunately for you, the scrapper, the job for iScrap was not to make the scrapyards happy all the time, but to be able to create a transparent metal pricing industry for you, the scrapper, to learn where the markets are at. It's very difficult to look at something online and say, oh, copper's trading at $3 a pound. I think that my copper's worth $3 a pound, only to show up to the scrapyard, learn that you have low-grade copper wire that has insulation and is priced at 25 cents. Thus giving you a massive letdown, a potential argument with the scrapyard. The scrapyard gets upset that you don't know what you're talking about. So we here at iScrap have created metal pages online. If you go to our website, you'll be able to see not only national prices, but you're also going to be able to see multiple ranges, pictures, and ideas about the pricing markets. And of course, we do our weekly report to let you know what's going on with the market overall. Now, we haven't talked about steel or iron, not because we don't want to, just because we've had a lot of information packed in here. One thing that I'd like to say, if you ever have questions during these live feeds, as many people have already asked or will be asking, by all means ask those questions. If we do not get to your answers while we're live, another scrapper will most likely grab that question and answer it for you, or our team at iScrap will be able to get you some answers and some links on how you can make more money with your scrap, of course. Steel and iron over the last week slightly down, about $5 per ton, after seeing a $10 to $15 per ton slippage over the previous 2 weeks. Now, many people are going to ask, why are the steel prices going down? It seems like the economy is recovering, manufacturing is up and running, people are continuing to buy cars, as many auto dealers are having some problems keeping some popular models on the lots, as many people are opting for private transportation opposed to the years of buses, trains, and planes that they were used to publicly. So with some of these markets being really busy, the steel market has remained relatively steady, but with the import market still being affected by those tariffs, they are going to have a price shift on the downward trend. Now think about what we talked about with the aluminum F-150 chassis before in this example. Let's just say that Ford was still, or let's say Chevrolet was making their Silverado, and they make their frame out of steel as well. Now, of course, you want to make more money on your scrap, but if you needed a new car, just the example that we're talking about today, would you want to pay more money because the steel, aluminum, and copper prices were higher? Probably not. So these automakers are trying to price their vehicles to build in market fluctuations on commodities, as most of their cars and most of their vehicles are made with rubber, plastic, aluminum. Every part of their vehicle is made with some type of commodity that they're reliant upon having steady prices for. Now, with the export market slowing down due to tariffs, and of course, the pandemic that's going on nationally and worldwide for that matter, we're continuing to watch these steel markets as gas prices and oil prices have continued to remain in a lower level. That lower level is great for you who's driving around picking scrap up, not good for people that are looking to make more money with their scrap because transportation costs are going to be lower. Think about it. If a scrapyard needs to have their truck move 100 miles and it's 4 miles per gallon, 25 gallons in that 100-mile trip, at a diesel price today at $3, that gives you what? A $75 trip? Well, what happens if the diesel price went to $5? Well, that adds an additional $50 onto that one specific trip that we're talking about, thus increasing the pricing that it costs to move the steel. So they're either going to lower their prices or the demand pricing market is going to go up, pushing those steel prices higher. Hey, there's a lot of information that we talk about every week for iScrap. Don't forget, if you don't have the opportunity to tune in live, you can always replay it on Facebook as we have it posted on here, as well as going to our YouTube channel where we have this video, as well as hundreds of other market updates giving you information about market tips, tricks, news, and you'll be able to go back week over week to be able to see where the market has moved over that time. We'd like to thank the team at rrcats.com for providing some market news for us. And don't forget, every Sunday we have our market prices giving you information on materials that others have cashed in over the last week to let you learn what's going on with the markets, where the prices are, and to give you more tools to make more money with your scrap. Scrappers, this is Tom from the iScrap app. Today is Wednesday, October 14th, 2020. We appreciate your comments, questions, ideas, and of course you tuning in. We look forward to working with you and learning more about your scrap jobs, catalytic converters, and any other thing that you have to do with scrap. Until next week, I'll scrap you later.